Well, the dust has settled a bit from CBS firing Stephen Colbert and ending the Late Show on CBS. But we keep hearing the same drumbeat, the same news, the same narrative from people in the media about what was really behind the firing. I mean, we already know that they were losing like 40 million a year. It wasn't profitable. They had a staff of 200. It was unsustainable. Despite being number one in the ratings compared to NBC and ABC, they're well behind Greg Gutfeld on Fox News. And the numbers just aren't there to sustain a proper, profitable show. So he got canceled. It happens all the time. But if you ask left-wing media personalities, no, this is all Trump's doing. Just look at Sonny Hostin yesterday on The View.
But my concern is if it is political, then everyone should be concerned. People on the right should be concerned. People on the left should be concerned, because it's very clear that if it is political, this is the dismantling of our democracy. This is the dismantling of our Constitution, right? And so the First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason, and that is freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom to speak truth to power. If that is taken away, if the comedians are being attacked, then that means our Constitution is being dismantled. Right. That means the very rubric of our democracy is being dismantled.
Our Constitution and the very rubric of our democracy is being dismantled because Stephen Colbert's $15 million a year contract has been canceled and his show has been canceled, but not until May. He's still on the air every night until May, but it's the very rubric of our democracy. And meanwhile, you can see basically a carbon copy of his show on NBC and on ABC and on Saturday Night Live and, well, pretty much across the board. But Stephen Colbert not being able to suck up to Democrats nightly on his sofa and not scream profanities at Donald Trump in his monologue, that destroys our Constitution. So says Sonny Hostin. And by the way, nothing's stopping Stephen Colbert from, if he's such a vital voice in America, I'm sure that CBS's competitors, I'm sure Netflix and Amazon Prime will pick him up and give him his own primetime streaming show. And that'll be brilliant, right? I'm sure they'll do that, unless they're in on it too. Check out Brian Stelter here with Anderson Cooper, raising the alarm again about the censorship and the fact that this is really Trump working with the corporate overlords at CBS Paramount.
I mean, Brian, CBS is saying this is a financial decision. It is certainly, the timing of this is kind of stunning.
Right. From the optics standpoint, the timing could not be worse for CBS. Colbert is such an outspoken Trump critic. He's just back from vacation. And as he showed there on Monday, on his first night back from vacation, he's also a thorn in his parent company's side. So this looks to a lot of Colbert's fans like another form of capitulation by CBS to the president of the United States. If you look at Colbert's Instagram page already, his fans are pouring their hearts out and blaming CBS for this. Here's the reporting that I have just in the past few minutes, Anderson, about this financial explanation. Think back to 2023 when the Late Late Show with James Corden went off the air. I reported at the time that show had become unprofitable, that CBS was not able to sell enough ads to make that show profitable. Well, that is now the case for Colbert as well. I'm told by a source close to the network that the Late Show with Stephen Colbert is now technically unprofitable. So that does give the company a financial reason to end the show starting in May 2026. However, it's not as if Colbert was given a chance to take a pay cut or maybe change the format of the show or move out of the Ed Sullivan Theater. This seems to have happened all at once. And it comes on the verge of that big Paramount Skydance merger. Who's taking over Skydance? Larry Ellison, a friend of President Trump, and his son, David. So there may be a lot more to this story. It's just happened in the past hour, but there's a lot more reporting to do on this.
All right. So that isn't journalism. That's not reporting. You know how they always love to say Trump said without evidence. Okay, so Brian Stelter just said without evidence that in some way Trump working with the corporate overlords are actually behind silencing Stephen Colbert and ending the Late Show. I mean, what was that exactly other than just wild speculation? But this is what they do at CNN now. By the way, a couple of things there. He talked about how the timing Boy, the timing here couldn't be worse. The timing is obvious. Look at the timing. The timing. Well, actually, we've learned something about the timing. Colbert, though, would not learn the news of his show's demise until he returned from vacation. It was after Colbert taped the Wednesday, July 16th episode, I'm told, that Dixon informed him of CBS's decision. The following day, Colbert stunned the TV industry and announced the cancellation at the top of the show. The timing of the cancellation news break came 3 days after a post-vacation Colbert blasted Paramount's settlement with Trump as a big fat bribe, has created terrible optics for the media conglomerate as it waits formal approval of its merger with Skydance. Nevertheless, multiple sources say the shocking decision to retire the Late Show brand was truly driven by financials as the late night space has continued to face declining ad revenue. What's more, while Colbert may have been the highest rated show of what appears, All right, but the key here is, see how at the top it says Colbert would not learn the news of his show's demise? As Sonny Bunch points out, Colbert's manager knew about this in late June. But he just didn't tell Colbert until he got back from vacation. He didn't want to spoil his vacation. But in this article, Colbert's manager knew about it. So the decision was made a month ago. So all this, the timing, it's really a reaction to what he said about Paramount on the air the other day. No, actually, it was decided in June. And his manager knew about it, but it doesn't matter. By the way, one other thing about that Brian Stelter segment you just saw, did you see who the host of the show was there? You know, the very important, serious, unbiased, objective newsman. It was Anderson Cooper, right? Anderson Cooper there at CNN, Anderson Cooper. Well, you know, the day after Colbert's cancellation was announced, in the audience there to show solidarity were all of his fellow late night comedians. Here you see John Oliver, you see Jon Stewart, you see Jimmy Kimmel there. You see, what's that guy's name again? He does the late show. I don't even know. Late night after the Tonight Show. He's irrelevant. Seth Meyers, thank you. Then you see Andy Cohen. I don't know why Andy Cohen is there, but look who's with Andy Cohen. So you got all these late night comedy hosts, and look at that. It's late night talk show host and stand-up comedian Anderson Cooper there to show solidarity with Stephen Colbert because he's an unbiased journalist. He's totally objective. This is CNN. Oh, speaking of CNN, they did have a pretty truthful segment about this. I got to give them credit for it.
Donald Trump posted, "I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings. Go yourself."
I think the real question is, should the president of the United States be picking and choosing people who should have jobs based on whether they say nice things about him or not?
No.
Wait, I'm sorry. We're going to get to Kevin O'Leary here in a second, but did you get the question? So they're just accepting as fact. Did they have no evidence of this? They are accepting as given fact that Donald Trump ordered Stephen Colbert to be fired. The question isn't whether he did it, according to Abby Phillips. The question is, should he have that kind of power? It's just absolute Looney Tunes. These people do not deserve your attention or your patronage. They are just propagandists. It's so obvious as you see it, right? I mean, you can't escape it. That was the question. Should the president have this kind of power? Who says he does? Okay.
Got fired before Trump said a word. 46.2.
Actually, Trump
Abby,
called for his
let me finish with
firing
a very
last.
simple explanation.
Okay, let me respond to what you said. Trump called for his firing last fall, just to be clear.
Let's talk about what actually happened. $46.2 million in losses on a franchise that's 40 years old. It's old, it's dead, and unfortunately for all of the category, people are geometrically not watching late night TV anymore. Here's the problem for Colbert. His contract is a payout contract through a transaction where there's a change of control. Only a moron would tell the president to F off before he gets his check, okay? So what's going to happen now, in my opinion, is tomorrow, CBS, his boss, will fire him, and they will litigate for the next 5 years his payout.
Fire who? Stephen Colbert?
So now,
Absolutely. Get rid of this guy.
Oh, no.
So now you're saying they're real.
All right, so that didn't happen, of course, but it's funny that everyone's like, well, you know, this is really bad, and they obviously Paramount canceled his show because he openly criticized Paramount on the air and Trump. And I think a couple of things. First of all, again, the timing doesn't work out that way because he was fired in June before he openly criticized Paramount CBS, number one. In fact, I think Colbert knew about it, and that's why he criticized Paramount and CBS so that he could hang his hat on this. Oh, he's the martyr. He's the victim, right? But number two, let's just play this out for a second. Let's say he's got this late night show and they're paying him $15-16 million a year and they're spending all this money and they're losing this money. And the show's not funny, and he's divided his audience, and he's a lightning rod of controversy. And then he goes on the air, and he starts trashing his boss. What am I missing here? Of course he should be fired. Let me tell you something. We have a very successful show. We have very happy advertisers. Our audience is growing. But I'm not stupid enough to criticize my boss. I work in crime. I'm just like Stephen Colbert, except for the $16 million. I do a 1-hour show, usually longer, and I don't have a team of writers by any stretch of the imagination.
Hey.
Kevin, you don't write necessarily. You help assemble. Or you write the headlines. And you make those crazy AI-generated thumbnails. But other than that, it's just us. It's just the two of us, right? And we're making money for our company. But we work for a corporation, just like Stephen Colbert does. He works for Paramount CBS. I work for Salem Media through Town Hall Media. Town Hall Media is wholly owned by Salem Media. If I every day started coming on here and I even one day started trashing Salem Media, they have every right to fire me. They should fire me, for God's sake. What am I missing? Why is Stephen Colbert suddenly this protected sacred cow who can go out there and do whatever he wants? It's insane. One other thing that I keep hearing, by the way, is that Stephen Colbert spoke truth to power. There's a chill wind blowing in America today as people's First Amendment rights are being undermined because Stephen Colbert's show was canceled and he spoke truth to power. Stephen Colbert has had every single powerful elected Democrat on his show over the course of the last several years, including Joe Biden himself and Kamala Harris. Can someone show me the clip where he speaks truth to those very powerful people? Unless you interpret truth as just bending over and kissing their ass. Didn't speak truth to power. He was a propagandist. Meanwhile, later on CNN.
Do you think that they're canceling the show because this is what President Trump wanted to let this merger go through?
No. I mean, it's pretty. Look at the reporting on this. On and off the record, executives all over are saying, we had to do it for financial reasons. This is a massive show with a massive staff. It's losing a massive amount of money. This is the nature of the TV business right now. You just are not economically viable if you're supposed to be doing a comedy show that's not funny, that's losing $50 million a year. I mean, only liberals, extreme liberals, would think that we have to keep subsidizing partisan rants every night that are economically not viable just because. Why? It makes absolutely no financial sense. He works for a for-profit company. Don't you have to turn a profit at some juncture? And he's not doing it. And, you know, there's a lot of people in this general business right now who think that I exist to go after Donald Trump at all costs. But no one stops to think, do I exist to make money or not? Maybe these things aren't compatible when you cut out half the country from your possible audience.
Amen. Thank you, Newsbusters, for the clip. Scott Jennings, of course, as is typical, making sense, one of the soul voices there on CNN. And then, shockingly, we got some more sense, some more frank talk, some more logic from an unlikely place, from CBS News itself, their morning show, where this discussion occurred as well. You know, CBS is so full of propaganda. You know, they're so iron-fisted that they are controlling people's speech. No, they actually debated this on their own network about whether Colbert should be fired. And, well, one voice of reason stepped forward and actually said to Gayle King's face, no, just no.
That's why people are reacting the way that they are.
No, I understand the emotional feelings, but I don't have an MBA, but he's not right that the merger, the $8 billion is based on reruns of a comedy show. No, people are buying the movies and the sitcoms and the sports they're not based on reruns of us either. So
But
I
he's
think
saying
he's
that
wrong about that.
He's saying that it contributed to it.
He's saying it's all encompassing,
No,
the
it's
total
not.
package of it.
That already happened in the past. And he also acknowledged that these late night shows are what he called like a blockbuster kiosk inside a tower record. So the business is broken. And what no one seems to acknowledge is that the politics also changed. The business changed and so did the politics. And it got way more one-sided than anything Johnny Carson was ever doing. I think we should reflect on those changes as well. It's been a big shift culturally in that regard also.
I hear you, but I think many people feel there's another way to do it. You know, it's a very difficult position to be in, but to disagree with something that company's doing, but also still loving your job and loving what you do. I really feel for Stephen Colbert. I think
feel for the whole staff of both those shows
I
and
do
whatever
too.
comes next for everybody.
I do too.
I think people will miss those shows when they're gone.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. No doubt. And I don't believe that he's going anywhere when it comes to this industry. He's going to land somewhere for sure.
All right, let's talk
But
about
if you haven't seen Jon Stewart's monologue, it's worth.
It is
listening.
indeed.
Jon Stewart's monologue is worth seeing. Okay, fine. Again, that's a good, sober explanation of the business behind this, and that the merger really didn't care about what Stephen Colbert brought to the table, or Jon Stewart. By the way, they both work for networks, CBS and Comedy Central, that are owned by Paramount. And if you think about Comedy Central and you think about some successful programming over there, well, you got to think about these guys, right? South Park. There are no sacred cows there. They criticize everyone. They criticize Trump mercilessly and effectively, I might add. They also work for Paramount CBS. And just today, it's been revealed that the creative team at South Park has inked a brand new deal with Paramount for new content, new distribution, streaming on the networks everywhere across the board, worth over $1 billion. So let me get this straight. There's some kind of First Amendment infringement. The very rubric of our democracy is being destroyed because Stephen Colbert's unsuccessful show has been canceled over at CNN because they were losing $40 million a year. And yet at the same time, that same corporation that's blowing a chill wind through our country's First Amendment rights and shredding the Constitution and undermining the very rubric of our democracy just signed a $5 million deal worth $1.5 billion with the team at South Park, who can be just as nasty, if not even nastier, in their criticism of Donald Trump. What's the difference here? What's the difference between Stephen Colbert criticizing Donald Trump every night and the South Park team criticizing Donald Trump? Well, there's one huge difference. South Park focuses on being funny and entertaining and profitable. Stephen Colbert didn't. And that really is the bottom line.